Hi everyone, and welcome back to another Sensible SENCO weekly chat. Now, we recorded a 2-hour video on meetings that SENCOs take, but I've had to break it down, so sorry, this is just me doing the intro now rather than just Abigail and me having a chat. So over the next 6 weeks, we will be doing meetings with governors and OFSTED, LAs and professionals, teachers, assistant and deputy SENCOs, and TAs, parents, and of course, the most important one, pupil meetings. Hopefully, the tips that we give you on these different stakeholder meetings will really improve the way you work and save you time as a SENCO. Let's go over to the video. Laters. Hi everyone, welcome back to another Sensible SENCO weekly chat.
It goes by really quickly, doesn't it?
It does seem to go by really quickly. This is the last week in March, and we are just going to finish off our organisational updates for you to help you out as a SENCO. This week we're going to be talking about
emojis. We are going to be talking about emojis. It's pulling faces at me.
Emojis, obviously. We're also going to be talking about
scheduling meetings
and
Sensible SENCO Planner.
You can talk about Sensible SENCO Planner if you want. But if you do have any topics that you want us to do, please do put them in the comments. We're always looking for different things to talk about randomly, as long as they're not too embarrassing for me. So, without further ado, Abigail, how do SENCOs, or how should SENCOs, get ready for a meeting with the different types of stakeholders that there are? So let's start with a management meeting.
So do you mean an SLT meeting or a governor's meeting?
Ooh. Let's go right to the top and let's work our way. I'm going to say down, but parents, please do not get annoyed with me when I say down and you are the lowest level of this conversation. Okay, let's start with the governors, the head of the schools, the governors, or should we start even higher?
Well, we don't usually have anybody at higher, so your trustees and your governors are probably about as high as we go, because even your CEO sits on the same level.
What about the LA? Do you have meetings with the LA as a SENCO? Because that'd be really weird.
So, yeah, you do, but the conversations you have with the local authority are different to the conversations you're having with governors and SLT usually.
Okay.
So if we do governors and SLT first, then we'll do the local authority as when we do professionals.
Okay.
Because they kind of sit in that field. So preparing for a meeting with your governors and your trustees are going to want to know what's going on in your SEN department. What are your trends? What are your needs? What are the things that are coming up that are going to cause them potential problems in the future? So, for example, most of you have had your consultations now. You know what's coming up in September. Whenever your next governor's meeting is, which is probably going to be about the end of April, beginning of May, which is where they're probably setting their budget and signing it off for the next year, they need to know that you've got 17 kids coming in September with an EHCP and you need an additional 15 TAs or whatever else it is you need. So preparing for that kind of meeting is a little bit different. And it's also a little bit different in the sense that very often you don't attend it. So sometimes we get invited to attend those kind of meetings and sometimes we don't. And if you're not invited, your paperwork, hate paperwork, but it is going to be on a piece of paper. Somebody else is presenting it. It has got to be very clear. So facts and figures, your school on a page or SEN on a page, whatever you want to call it, putting in your data, putting in what your interventions are, and put your costs on there as well. Talk about those trends, talk about what is happening so that those governors can go in and fight your corner. The best thing to happen is if you're SEN governor, and if you are a maintained school, there is a requirement to have an SEN governor. If you are a multi-academy trust, your local governing board doesn't need to have an SEN governor, but there must be one on the trustees, SEN governor that is. So there must be somebody on the trustees that does it. Generally speaking, most of them follow the same rules as maintained though, so even in a local governing board for a multi-academy trust, you will have an SEN governor. It kind of scares me when there isn't one. But you need to have a relationship with them. You need to talk to them beforehand, because they are supposed to be your voice in those meetings. They're the ones who, behind closed doors, are going to be going, yeah, hold on a minute, I don't think we should be spending the money on new doors or a new carpet. We actually need another TA, or we need to renew our licence for whatever else it is.
Wow, that was quite a whistle stop, wasn't it? We need this, we need this, we need that, we need that.
Yeah, I mean, I like governors' meetings. I've been on every side of a governors' meeting. So I've been a chair of governors, I've been a staff governor, I've been a parent governor, I've been a co-opted governor. But I've also been on that side where I've been the person invited to a governors' meeting and presenting to them. And I actually wish I'd done the governor's role before I was doing that role, because I would have understood actually what was going on once the doors were shut and I'd left. But it's no secret. You can imagine what's going on. They're having that discussion. They're having to make some pretty tough decisions. I know some people kind of resent governors and trustees and decisions that are made, but I can assure you that they are not taken lightly. They are quite tricky sometimes. And yeah, okay, the head teacher's new carpet might get prioritised over the cost of a TA, but that's probably because the head teacher's carpet is only £1,000 and a TA is going to be £15,000. They've got £1,000. They know if they don't spend it, they're going to lose it.
Yep.
So they better spend it on the head teacher's new carpet, which gives a good impression to parents coming to visit, who then might enrol their kids, which increases your roll, which then increases the amount of money coming in the next year, and you might be able to afford the TA that you need. It's really complicated.
Yeah, it is. It's all about compounding what you're putting out there to make it so that it lasts for a bit longer.
Yeah.
What you're doing. So yeah, making it look nice might not actually you might go, oh my god, they're painting the walls again. Yeah. But having a school that looks nice also attracts the right kind of people into your school, which can then add additional funding in as an external person or company, in fact, because we at my school used to get sponsorship from companies to be able to do stuff.
Sometimes, if we just talk about that for a second, sometimes when a company sponsors something, they are quite explicit about what that money can be spent on. So, I don't know, you might have the local co-op says, yeah, we'll give you some money, but you can only spend it on the library. So you're wondering why the library's just got a revamp with a whole load of new books and shelves, and you're thinking I could really do with, some new desks in my classroom. But the funding restrictions on it are okay, we can't use it for that. The same applies. There's a website you can go to. It's called Grants for Schools with the number 4, and they tell you all of the grants that are available that you can apply for. But when you apply for them, there's some quite strict funding restrictions on there about what it's for. So one of them I was looking at the other day was to do with IT, and I thought, fantastic, this is brilliant, but it could only be used for Key Stage 2. It could only be used for IT for science projects, so you can't use it for just your general IT support and assistive technology. It had actually got to be a science project that you were setting up with your Key Stage 2, upper Key Stage 2 probably, that required technology, and it was kind of looking at more that STEM side of things. So yeah, there is money out there, but it's sometimes restricted where you can use it. Going off tangent slightly.
Completely off tangent, but it's also a good one for your governors to go out there and hunt down these companies to kind of get yourself some money.
Grants for schools, you get a brief overview of 3 of them on the email, but if you want to apply for any of them, you have to be registered. And if you want to see the full list, you actually have to register with them. And there is a fee to that as well. So perhaps get the PTA involved and see if they'll purchase the...
Yeah, definitely worth going down that route, though. So, governors kind of sorted. Do we need to keep a governor's file as such to kind of randomly hand to them every so often? Or do we just do the one-page document?
One-page document and whatever they ask for. Generally speaking, your SEN data will form part of what's called the Headteachers report, which is what they present to the governors. And the Headteachers report is part of public knowledge anyway. So your governors' meetings have to be registered online, and the data that sits behind that is usually online as well. If there's anything confidential in there, they will have redacted it or removed it. But even if it's not online, your clerk to the governors will have had to have kept a copy of it, because Ofsted check all of your governors' minutes and meetings. That's probably something people didn't realise either. So they do check through that kind of thing. So it is you don't need to keep a copy of it. Okay, it's useful, but there will be a copy of it lurking somewhere.
Okay, so you just mentioned Ofsted there. So can this governor's report also, which is the one-page profile, and I know that Paul, when he was doing our Sensible 24 conference, also said this one-page, or in a nutshell, or whatever else you want to call it, I'm assuming they're the same thing. Similar. Can that be used for Ofsted as well, to put in front of them and go, this is the data it is? So what we don't want the SENCO to be doing is doing multiple versions for different stakeholders when they don't need to. So we can use the Ofsted one or the governor's one for Ofsted.
Yeah, well, you know my opinion on that. You only produce a piece of paper if it's of any use to you. So it's useful to produce that piece of paper for your governors because you're not there at that meeting, or you're leaving them with that information for that meeting. So yes, it is useful to produce it. Would I produce that piece of paper just for Ofsted? No, I'd be producing it for myself to prompt myself in an Ofsted meeting think there's a difference
Okay.
there. I'm not producing it for Ofsted, I'm producing it for me. It's my summary, my SEN on a page, if you like. And yeah, you could use the same one. Just bear in mind your governors meet more than once every 10 years if you're an outstanding school. Ofsted haven't been for a while. So they're meeting at least 3 times a year, possibly more than that. So it's a more up-to-date piece of information.
Okay.
And it is something you do have to stay a bit on top of as well. I've seen data presented before that is like, hey, this is the same one you gave me 4 months ago when we had our last meeting. And I know your numbers have changed because I've had a meeting with you since. So, making sure you've got that.
So if we're also looking at saving SENCO's time, the information report that has to be on the website for SENCOs, can that data be linked into there as well?
To a certain extent. I mean, on the school information, SEN information report, you're talking about the provisions you have that are available, but you're not talking about the impact of those provisions, and that is more what you are presenting to your governors and your trustees and your Ofsted. So one of them is like the glossy brochure that you get that tells you what you're going to get when you go on holiday, and the other one is the review of the holiday at the end of it. So yeah, but your SEN information report is a bit more.
They could kind of link, and if you're doing one, I know you have to keep your SEN information report up to date. So if you're doing one report, then surely you should be updating the other one at the same time.
So SEN information report you only update once a year.
Okay. Yeah.
So not quite the same. You wouldn't update your SEN information report and go, I've started offering a new provision. You would actually update it the following year.
Okay.
When you do that.
That's fine. See?
Save yourself a bit of work.
Save yourself a bit of work. Gavin's trying to get you more work to do now.
I hate SEN information reports, sorry.
There's lots of stuff on our website for SEN information report, I do believe, anyway, because I've just updated it. So we've done governors. We've kind of touched on Ofsted because Ofsted can be used as the same kind of level as a governor.
Yeah, you don't get to plan them. So the whole purpose of this session today is to talk about our planning for those meetings. And of course, we've got to plan for that governance meeting, plan for that trustees meeting. But you don't really get to plan for an Ofsted meeting. Yes, you're going to take a piece of paper in that's got some data on it to prompt you. You might take in some case studies to prompt you. Remember, it's for you, it's not for them. But you can't plan for that meeting because they are the ones that direct it. They're the ones that choose what question they're going to ask you and what kind of pathway they're going to take with it.
Yeah, but if you stick a piece of information under their noses, they're not going to kind of go, oh, well, I can't be bothered to look at that, are they?
I think the phrase that Paul used was, if you say it, they can't unhear it, and if you show it, they can't unsee it.
Yeah.
So if you've got something good, shove it under their nose,
shove it under their
shout
nose.
it at them.
Yeah, just keep going.
But yeah, an Ofsted meeting, unless we've had a conversation about this recently. When Ofsted come in, they will want to know that what is on a piece of paper is what is happening out in the classroom, if you like. So they'll talk to you about an SEN student, they'll then go and see what's going on. And somebody said, who dictates which children this is? Is it the SENCO that gets to decide, or is it Ofsted that randomly go down the list, shove a pin in and choose the child? And the best way I can describe it, and I don't know if this is the approach that they have officially taken, but if going around everybody that I've asked, if SEN was an issue in your previous Ofsted report, or it is something that they've noticed as being an issue in their first couple of hours there, then they will be the ones that stick the pin in. So they're the ones that dictate who they want. If SEN hasn't come up as being anything major, or it looks like it's okay in that first couple of hours, then they tend to ask you and go, show me 3 EHCPs, show me 3 SEN support. So it's a trend that we're noticing. I don't know whether it's an official kind of way of doing that. Nobody will tell me, not even Paul will tell me, or Laura. So I can't get that answer, but it does feel that is where it's going. Yeah. So I think, if you know that SEN was an issue last time, be prepared for the fact they could ask you for any kid who's on your SEN register, and you're going to have every single file available and up to date and all the rest of it, which they should be anyway. But if it wasn't an issue, you could kind of be a little bit more
Picky,
I think. You can pick the really good cases to showcase.
Here's all my cases. Or you can just get your cases ready anyway and just chuck them in front of them when they start going, can I have this kid and this kid, this kid? No, I've got all these ready for you, though. Just chuck it in front of them anyway and see what happens.
But the answer will be, I don't have the time for this.
Well, these are the ones I've got for you, and it's going to take me a long time to go and find the information for the rest of them. I'm just trying to save you some time.
I'm teaching for the rest of the day.
I'm just trying to save you some time, Mr. Ofsted Inspector, or Mrs. Ofsted Inspector. So Ofsted covered, governors covered, head teacher conversations.
Again, a little little bit different because, you don't get to dictate the agenda for a meeting with your head teacher, usually. So if you've requested the meeting, then yes, you may be saying what it is you want to talk about. If the head teacher has requested the meeting, then you may be on the back foot thinking, oh my goodness, what's going to happen?
What have I done wrong?
So it can be one or the other.
Yeah.
If you've requested the meeting, obviously you know what you're going in with. I would say go in backed up with your data.
Okay.
So if you're going in to say, hey, look, we've had those consultations, we've got 17 kids coming next year, I've looked at the timetable, I've looked at this, and we cannot do it on our current staffing, we cannot do it with our current curriculum, we need to do this. That's all well and good going and having that conversation. Back it up.
Yeah.
Back it up with data, back it up with research, back it up with any professional report that you can pull in that says we're going to need this. If you can, and if you have got the time, give them alternatives, give them options to choose from rather than just going in with what you want, because that doesn't always come across particularly well. Kind of go in with actually we could do this or we could do this. This is my preferred model and this is the reason why. But if we can't quite reach that, here's a compromise.
I'd always go in with 3 options. So, your highest one, your middle one, and the one that is probably cheapest chips and scrapes the bones of everything possible. But make sure that the bottom one has the minimal impact that it possibly can do.
But also that it meets the legal requirements. Yeah. And I think that's important. So very often we will go into those meetings and we always forget there is a legal requirement for some things. So reasonable adjustments, it comes under the Equalities Act, disabilities, so we have to put them in place. You cannot ignore them. If they've got in the HCP, we've got Section F, there is a legal requirement to provide what is in Section F. And yes, okay, it's incumbent on the local authority to secure that provision, but they have secured it by saying that you are the school that they want to deliver it. Yes, you can go and apply for the additional funding, but then that funding can't disappear into the head teacher's pot for the new carpet in the office. Yeah. Sorry, head teachers, I'm picking on a carpet in an office. Can you guess what conversation I've had this week? So I know that you don't normally do that, but we've got to be really careful and think about, what is it we want and what are the legal repercussions if we don't put some of these things in place.
Yeah, especially if you're asking the LA for money on something or whatever else and then you don't actually spend it on that. That's kind of a bit,
It's interesting because I was talking to somebody about personal budgets the other day. So parents, if they request a personal budget, which they're perfectly entitled to do, yes, okay, it takes the money away from the school sometimes and all the rest of it. But if they request a personal budget, they have to submit monthly returns. So they have to submit their receipts, they have to submit their invoices, they have to show exactly what they have done with the money. And I'm actually quite surprised that over the last 10 years, knowing how much we are in a funding crisis, that local authorities haven't started asking for it from schools. I'm really surprised that they haven't started doing it, if I'm honest. And I wouldn't be surprised if sometime over the next couple of years that is something that comes into place.
Yeah, it could be, but I think they'll kind of look at it and go, they haven't got the manpower to be able to do anything like that. Because as soon as you bring another process in that
but if you're doing a cost of provision map, the costs are on there anyway. So I don't see, you put it on your cost of provision map, you say how much it's costing, you say what the impact is, you've got the cost on there. All the local authority is doing is going, hold on a minute, you told us here that you've got a sensory room. Where's your sensory room? Because you've just told us on that consultation document and you don't have a sensory room for this child.
And when we did the Oldham stuff, so we did some stuff for Oldham, and they were costed through the LA, came through the LA paid for it all basically, and then they were asked, what's the impact on it? What's the thing on it? Is it a good system?
Yeah.
And they came back, as far as I know, that they said it was a good system that we did for them. TA drop-in training session that we did for them. So there are ways that they monitor it and they do ask for the impact of it.
So I used to sit on the panel for our local authority. So we have a funding panel that is separate to EHCP funding. And I used to sit on that panel. You would have to fill in paperwork to say, I need additional funding for this child, rather than go for the HCP or excluding them, etc. And on that, I used to have to I didn't put costs on it, but I had to put in what I was going to do with the additional money if I got it. And I was always slightly paranoid because the other people that were on the panel were the EPs, they were our specialist teachers, so the ones that come into school, they were the behaviour support team, it was the local authority themselves, it was a couple of SENCOs from other schools. And I know that, if that EP came in and I've written on this document that I'm going to offer X, Y, Z, and the EP comes in and looks and goes, hold on a minute, you applied for funding to do X, Y, Z and you're not doing X, Y, Z, why not? That would terrify me. So I was always very much, if I'm going to put it on this document, it has got to happen.
Yeah.
And that's probably why my head teacher didn't like me, because I would go and challenge that and go, I need a TA to do this, or I need support to do this.
I think that's the reason why we are the way that we are within the whole thing that we do anyway, because if I say something, I'm going to do something to somebody, and you're the same. You say you're going to do something, we will go out there and do it.
Sometimes it takes time.
sometimes it takes a bit too much time, but we do go around and actually get it done. So yeah, it's just kind of people that are out there and the people that you are as individuals. But we're not going to go into that subject at the moment. So
let's say conversation with head teachers. If that's you that's going in there, go in with your battle plan.
Yep.
If you're on the back foot and you don't know why they've called you in, take your folder with you anyway. Just anything you can.
And probably a union rep.
No, not always. It might be that the head teacher's found a pot of money and they're going to offer you another 3 TAs. And would you like to be involved in the interviews? Or would you like to be on senior leadership team? Or would you like a wage rise? Or would you like an SEN point? It could be good news. Don't know what you think of head teachers, do you?
I love head teachers completely. Yes, I do. I love SENCOs more though.
Hi, hope you enjoyed that video. So here are the key points to take away from it. Make sure that you've got your information, preferably on one page, to share with governors, because they're not going to be able to read lots of it. So if it's a governors meeting, try and get it all on one page. With your SEN governor, you're going to give them more information though. Try and make it a part of the head teacher's report. Technically speaking, it should be part of the head teacher's report anyway. They should be asking you for that information, and there's a little data box usually that they fill in. That said, governors can dictate the format of the head teacher's report, so yours could have goodness knows what in it. But trying to include it in there and giving them that regular feedback about what's going on in your SEN department would really help you out. And then, of course, remember that yeah, all right, you may think that the budget hasn't come your way this year, but it could be coming your way next year. And just because they've spent it on the head teacher's carpet, sorry, head teachers, doesn't mean that they're dismissing your needs over that cost. It's just that where that funding came from dictates it has to be spent on different things. So on our next key point slide, these are the things that you're going to do for OFSTED. Well, we don't do things for OFSTED, we're just doing them because they're for us and they help us with OFSTED. So you're looking at only creating what you need. Make sure it's only what you need, not because somebody else wants it. It's got to be something useful that you used. I'd rather see a tatty document than something that's been freshly printed and created the night before. And remember that if Ofsted see it or they hear it, they can't unsee it and they can't unhear it. So if you want to boast about some fantastic success story, make sure that you do that. Add that in there. And then on our final key points here, we have got our head teachers. Well, where would we be without our head teachers? Make sure that whatever you're going into those meetings with, you get to back it up with data. I know that my head teacher, if I'd have asked them for something, they would have come back to me with, present it to me in a report and give me your evidence. I don't blame them. At the time I used to resent it, but I'm going to sit back and think about it. Actually, that's reasonable. Back it up with data. And if you've got alternatives, offer them the alternatives. You know, give them a set of options. We do the same with SEN children. Just imagine your head teacher's part of your SEN register. No, don't do that. But, you know, give them some options. Give them some alternatives. So give them choice A, B or C. A is the most legally appropriate one. C is the least legally appropriate one. And here are the repercussions if we don't do it. But at least we'll be meeting some minimum best endeavours type measure within there. So give them some options, and at least then they can make a choice rather than feeling that you're going to them asking for something all of the time. Don't forget to join us for our other videos, the next one of which is about working with professionals and local authorities.
Now, I am going to slap Abigail's hand if she carries on banging on the table, because the microphone is super sensitive and has probably just drowned her out with the tapping.
I didn't mean to.
I know. She's just like... You know when you've got to do the dance? With your hand dance. Like that. Anyway. So... She's lively today. She's got backache though, but she's lively. I forgot where I was going to go with that now.